Welcome to the top 7 defenders in Rainbow Six Siege. Those kind of operators that should probably be must picks in almost every single round. Obviously, there's those situations, you look at the enemy's habits, you counter pick what your teammates have, blah, 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 blah. But besides all of that, I'm going to give you some beginner and more advanced tips for each of these defenders, and then letting the final moments of a round play out to see how you could use these guys in their optimal situations. And make sure to let me know how mad you are that Jaeger, Bandit, Cade, Mute, or Smoke are not on this list.
Stop it. Get some help.
What killed the dinosaurs? Number 1!
Were you thinking it?
Yeah, well, you said it.
Starting off that list at number 7, we have Frost, one of the earliest DLC operators. Her main SMG has access to an extended barrel and an angled grip, so nothing that really helps recoil, but even without it, her gun is super controllable. She also has access to a secondary shotgun, which allows for easy rotation holes. Frost could put down 3 welcome mats anywhere on the ground on the map, and if an enemy even puts 1 pixel of their foot on them, they immediately go down. Her basic spots for frost traps are to put them on windows and objectives. However, more advanced players, when they jump over a window without even thinking about it, they immediately look down and start hip firing, because with 2 bullets you're actually able to take down the frost trap. So since you actually only need a pixel to touch the enemy, put the frost traps as far off to the left or to the right of that window as possible. The next trick is to also use her deployable shield, and always use it. Deployable shields are great, but you could also create another vulnerable area into the objective by placing the deployable on a door and the frost trap behind it. But okay, that's basic. You're most likely not going to catch anyone who's pretty experienced at the game putting your frost mats this way, so you have to try a little bit harder. First off, put your welcome mats on a door frame opposite of the direction your enemy is going to be aiming at. So when your enemy comes in, they're looking towards the left and they're very likely to back up into it. You could use your shotgun to destroy the floor to create a line of sight, allowing you to use that downed enemy as bait. And lastly, a trick that I really like to use is to create rotations in soft walls. Rotations that look like they're for roamers, but really you're just creating a multiple rotation hole that enemies are going to jump through and then step on your frost trap. And honestly, this is a free and easy way to checkmate rounds. At number 6, we have Castle.
What?
Man, when I used to play back in the day, this was definitely a wasted pick. But with the buff of giving him another castle, giving him the super shorty secondary, and whenever your teammates properly take down his castle barricades, you get another one in your inventory. Plus his SMG ump is amazing. Make sure you put the extended barrel again. His gun is pretty easily controllable, and it also has a scope on defense, which those are precious. So what does Castle do? It is a slowdown tactic like Goyo. It forces the enemy to use a gadget or melee the castle wall like 13 times, which definitely exposes them. And a trick that I like to use because of this mechanic is something called the hatch and trap, which for example in laundry room on Villa, you could put a castle on this door, open up the hatch above, throw one of his proxy alarms on one of the laundry mats, and then when they start dealing with the castle, either by putting a breaching charge, meleeing it, or whatever, they're focused on that and you can simply shoot him from behind. And you could also do this with doors that don't have hatches above them because you have that super shorty shotgun, so you're able to shoot out the floor below and get some nice cheeky angles. I've clutched so many wins with this method, but one important thing to know with Castle is to not put them on the outside doors or windows. Otherwise, again, they're kind of wasted. But the biggest thing is to make sure you don't lock your team inside. Remember, Castle is all about Sim City, not about locking your objective into a box. It's about using your shotgun to create rotations that the enemy isn't aware of, while canceling rotations through doorways that enemies are actually used to, giving them cognitive dissonance and allowing you to take advantage. At number 5, we have my old school main, Mira. Man, did she get a huge nerf from back in the day. And no, it's not the fact that enemies could just walk up and melee it, allowing you not to see. It's the fact that every single map from back in the day got reworked. So now there are no objectives where you could literally just put a Mira up next to a softball and literally block an entire half of the map. That doesn't stop Mira from being exceptional in specific objectives. But she has access to the Vector, a headshot machine, and she also has access to the Ita shotgun. Also, make sure to grab the C4 with her. She does have access with proxies, but a thing you could do with Mira and her shotgun is to shoot out the top of a wall next to your Mira, which we're about to talk about, and then be able to lob your C4 over, and you're gonna know the enemy's over there because the way her gadget works is to put up a reinforced wall and you can put a Mira on that side. And this gives you line of sight to wherever the enemies are gonna be pushing you and allowing you to pre-aim with your Vector and then strafe out and pre-fire. This takes advantage of Peeker's advantage, and you should definitely take advantage of it. And trust me, you're gonna be slaying opponents and checkmating every round like this. this. Big tip, you'll see this little gas canister. This allows you to pop your own mirror so the mirror opens. Never do it. I've actually never, ever had to do that. You really only want to do that if you're locked out of your own objective, the enemy's planted, and that's literally your only window into it. But at that point, you know, you haven't done your job right. So let's take a look at Mira taking advantage of the speaker's advantage.
Operator remaining. 5 seconds left. 4 remaining. Op 4 eliminated.
Crisscross applesauce.
At number 4, we are talking Azami. If you haven't noticed already, a lot of the operators that I like to pick definitely focus on Sim City, building rotations and blocking out rotations for the enemies. And Azami's Kiba Barrier gadget definitely allows for that. You're able to throw these kunais, which expand, creating bulletproof walls. Enemies are still able to destroy these with explosives or by meleeing them 3 times. So a big tip with Azami is to make sure you don't throw them at walls and windows that lead to the outside or where enemies could actually melee from safety. It's actually better to create barriers within your base by throwing them at objects and creating peek holes and lines of sight where enemies wouldn't expect. At this point in time, a lot of people when they sweep rooms, they already align their sights to specific corners of the room and objects, knowing where enemies are most likely going to be at. But with Azami, because you could create different lines of sight, this throws a lot of enemies' aims off because they have a lot more places to check that they're not used to, and they will never get used to because you'll never place the Azamis in the exact same spot ever again. And that's one of the biggest things with Azami that a lot of people don't talk about. It's just the mind games that you could play. And another tip, if you think a wall is too short, you could expand it. You could throw one Azami on top of another. And there are plenty of objectives that you wish you could hold a little bit better, but you simply can't because it's too open. That's not a problem with Azami anymore. She has access to one of the best guns on defense in my opinion, which is the Russian SMG that Kapkan also uses. She doesn't have access to the 1.5 scope like he does, but you are still able to slay out a lot. Plus she has impact grenades, which again, make for a great roamer. Plus she also has access to barbed wire, which when combined with her Kiba barriers allows for some great SimCity because you're able to create a skinny choke point that they had to either deal with the Kiba barrier or the barbed wire. Again, just creating a big slowdown for an enemy push. Now let's take a look at Azami dominating a round.
Of the hostiles for securing the biohazard container. Prevent further access to the biohazard container. Op 4, last operator standing.
You don't scare me.
At number 3, we have Thunderbird. She has the second best weapon on defense, second only to Thorn in my opinion. But her kit is a lot more useful, a lot more reliable, whether you're a roamer or whether you're an anchor. The fact that you can take out so many opponents without reloading because of her high DPS is just so sweet. She has access to impacts, which are great for roaming or SimCity, you know, obviously open up rotations for your team in the base or when you need to make a quick getaway. She also has access to C4s. If you're more of an anchor, I definitely recommend the C4. If you're more of a roamer, definitely go for the impact. She's also a 3-speed, which is awesome. But now let's get to her abilities, the Kona stations. These are 3 little gadgets that you can place around the map, and anytime you or one of your allies or enemies walk into them, they get healed. And on top of that, if any of your allies or enemies go down and they get near to your Kona stations, they could pick themselves back up, albeit a little bit slower than getting picked up by an ally, but in crucial situations, this could determine whether you win or lose the round. A few tips with the Kona stations: put them around where your rotation holes are. That way you and your allies are naturally moving throughout your base and healing without giving it a second thought. Make sure you don't put them in lines of sight where enemies might shoot them, and also put them on top of desks. That way people don't have to go behind cover in order to get healed. They have a little bit more freedom of how they could approach it. And lastly, if you're a roamer, keep one for yourself. Don't throw them all on your base. You never know when you're gonna have to start healing yourself. And also an advanced tip is that you could actually reset the cooldown for the heals by picking them up and putting them down. Obviously there is a little bit of a timer when you initially put them down, so you're not just gonna insta heal yourself to 100, but with this method you could fully heal in half the time it takes your Kona station to recharge once on its own. Now let's take a look at this round with Thunderbird's Deadly Spear 308.
One Op 4 remaining.
Next at number 2, we have Rooney. She has access to the EBR, a marksman rifle on defense. And again, it has a scope. Those are so good. Fucking chef's kiss. Plus, she also has access to the Roni, a rapid firing SMG. However, it does have a low ammo count, so if you're not used to hitting all your shots right away, it might not be the gun for you. But you do have those two options, which is great. The big thing with the Rooney is that she could throw up laser gates at doors and windows. This creates many trappable areas to do the hatch and trap tricks like we spoke about with Castle. It allows the enemy to be delayed again, because if they do decide to pass through the Rooney gates, they're going to be taking some big damage. They are able to shut those down by throwing some kind of projectile in it, including their drones. However, after a 30-second delay, you're going to see these little white things on top of the doors open up, and you're going to be able to shoot them to activate the gates again. So it's a trap that if your teammates pay attention, and trust me, they won't, so you're going to have to keep calling out for them, these gates are going to be a menace throughout the round. And another big bonus thing with the Rooney is that her melees are basically like mini shotgun holes. You're able to create a crawl rotation hole, and just like Castle Shotgun, you're also able to melee the ground below where an Rooney gate is, and again, get some free and easy picks. Now let's take a look at this gameplay of a Rooney slaying it out. And at number 1, we have one of the OGs in the game. Of course, we're talking about Captain. He, like Azami, do have the same guns. Again, one of the best guns on defense, except he does have the added benefit of a 1.5 scope. He also has access to impact grenades, which are great for roaming, which I do with Captain. And you could also have C4s if you do plan to be an anchor. When it comes to his gadget, he's able to place traps on doors and windows. So when enemies actually step through them, they take big damage. 3 total will take down an enemy. But even if they just get hit by 1, that makes any firefight that you take against them or any of your allies that much easier. Now, the important thing with Captain is to not put them on outside doors or windows. Again, any gadgets on outside doors and windows are easily shot. So the basic way, if you're new to Captain, is to put Captain traps indoors to the objective. And a big thing is to keep in mind how enemies are going to be approaching your objective. If they are approaching from a long hallway, and from their perspective, enemies could only be to the left when they step through this door, then put the trap to the right where they're not going to check. Or if they do decide to check, they're exposing themselves to potential enemies shooting them. So this is a good way to checkmate enemies. And you can take this concept even farther and put the traps like a room away from the objective, because they're even less likely to check those areas. And it is in these type of doors where I would put more than one Captain trap. And also, don't be afraid to trap up their safety spots. If you think an enemy is going to push from the outside, take a certain lane to get to your objective, and then they have the possibility of getting shot and running away, think, where are they going to run away to if they can't go outside? And then put a trap there. Boom. Free, easy kills. What do you guys think of this list? Are there any operators that I left out? And would you order any of these different? Let me know down in the comments. And if you enjoy this kind of content, make sure to subscribe. It's a good time. And to end off the video, check out this ace I got with Capkin.